DIY ouchie boo boo kits, med kits, EDC, pouch, medical, whatever you want to call them. Why would you even want to DIY a medical kit, some type of kit that's with you at all times? Well, there's a number of reasons. If it's going to be, you want to be that super dad, that super mom, if you're just super clumsy, whatever the case may be, this is my 2023 EDC ouchie boo boo kit in a micro size. The Data Crew Water Slider, an incredibly popular pouch in the EDC world. It's not oftentimes tricked out in the sorts of ways that is done. All right, so why would you want to have a super small and compact DIY kit? Well, before we talk about my specific kit, let's first talk about what I did before this came to pass. So at first I went out and I bought the more traditional pre-purchased, pre-packaged Amazon medical kits. Doesn't have the greatest of zippers, not very water resistant. They're not very customizable. I mean, this thing here, I thought it was a great idea. It labels everything. So if somebody else rolls up on this kit, they're gonna know what to grab, where to grab it. But the thing overall just kind of left me wanting more. It was kind of very big. So I wasn't a big fan of the pre-purchase kit, and I pre-purchased quite a few of them. The next thing that I did is I DIY'd a kit. Once I DIY'd a kit, things got a little bit better. I was able to choose the pouch that I wanted, the components that I wanted to put inside. And things were looking up. Things were looking up. This thing is, you know, I carried this thing for quite a while, but I did notice that it also was pretty heavy. I was starting to carry things I didn't need because it was too big. And I noticed that the only way I'm going to continuously carry a kit with me is if I'm able to shrink this thing down. Enter Data Crew in their water slider. Just look at the size difference when it comes to the water slider in comparison to the DIY. I think this is the Spanker. What do they call this thing? Yeah, the Spanker International Kit. Weird name, but you know, they sell a lot of them on Amazon. Full disclosure, Data Crew did send this out to me. They sent me out several pouches. I do appreciate that. No money exchanged hands, and I'm not required to create any content off this. This is just generally how I decided to kit this thing out. Most people, they get their hands on a water slider, they don't do what I've decided to do here. But before we just dive into the actual components, let's talk about the pouch itself. This is in their, I think they call it their snozberry color. It's a navy blue color-ish type color. It's about 3.5 inches in the height, about 4.5 inches in length, and it is 2 inches in depth. Mine's a little bit fatter because it's stuffed full of crap. It has a heavy canvas outer shell, and that heavy canvas outer shell is a 500D material. It does have YKK number 5 coated coiled zippers. What does that mean? Flagship type of zipper specs when it comes to a small EDC pouch. Has one slip pocket in the front. The entire back panel is loop paneling. So if you have something with a hook feature, you can do the hook and loop action. Only thing I keep back there is a little small patch that says med so that someone knows what this pouch is designed for. Does have a very large elastic band at the top. I'm not really sure what it's for, but I decided to put a hero clip up here. I'm a big fan of the hero clip, mainly because it's just so functional. You can take this off, leave the carabiner engaged at the bottom, and then take it and still hang it from different items, hang it from different places, keep it from getting wet, so forth and so on. Or you can use it like a traditional carabiner, take it and clip this entire thing to a bag, a purse, a sling bag, a belt loop, whatever you want to do. This is only water resistant. It is not waterproof, mainly because it does have exposed insides underneath this loop, which we'll talk about here in a second. And what I keep in the front pocket, very, very simple. It's an ouchie boo boo kit. So you would imagine that the ouchie boo boo items that I keep inside are always readily accessible. Some adhesive bandages, AKA Band-Aids. It's not the Band-Aid brand. And we keep a little bit of triple antibiotic ointment, or more colloquially called Neosporin, the generic kind. No, most often used items when it comes to me, my kids, and myself: Band-Aids, and freaking ointment. Diving into this thing, it does have a full 180 degree opening. It really goes past that if you really want to. You'll notice that here on this opening here, that's why it's not 100% waterproof. It does have this opening which allows for you to stick stuff through. I'm not sure what that's for. I'm assuming that Data Crew does have a future plans for that hole. Through that, I decided to put a couple safety pins. You never know when a button's going to come loose on some pants. You don't have a belt for a 2-year-old or a 8-year-old. So on the front, we did have the triple antibiotic ointment. This is actual name brand Neosporin that I keep in here. That way I can apply much more if I need to, and I can easily see when I'm running out versus having those small packages, guessing how much I have left. Right next to it, you'll see that there's another slip pocket. This entire slip pocket does have one actual divider in it, so you can keep items that can fit in there. And next to that, I do keep some ibuprofen, just in case someone gets a fever. We keep some non-aspirin for those that are allergic to aspirin or cannot take Advil. And then we have some sting relief. So we have just a couple of things that are commonly used for my family. Behind that, just in case we're going to be preparing to do anything when it comes to wounds or adhesive bandages or something like that, we do keep some saline wash. Now, this is just going to be good if you want to clean a cut. Only thing I wish about this specific saline wash that I got, I wish it was resealable. Once you open this thing up, you got to use the whole thing or you don't use it at all. One complaint, maybe I'll change that out for something, because if I'm just cleaning a cut at a soccer game or a cheer tournament, I'm probably not going to spray all 30 milliliters of this stuff, but maybe I will. Next to that, I do keep some non-latex gloves that I can use, which will come in handy for keeping me from contaminating a wound and from that wound contaminating myself. They also bring a little bit of loop feature inside of the pouch itself, and I decided to put a patch here that Data Crew provided me. I thought it was pretty neat, so put that there. It has one slip pocket that is similar to the slip pocket that's back here. This is one large slip pocket. This slip pocket right behind this loop handling, I put first, I do have the Leatherman Squirt PS4. I love this thing. It doesn't carry it as much as I would like to. That's why I decided to deploy it here. It does have a small pair of pliers, which is not the main reason why I'm carrying this thing. The main reason I want to carry it is because it does include a pair of scissors, and I love scissors in my multi-tools. Having some in this will allow for me to make small little cuts. Underneath that are some splinter probes. If you've never heard of splinter probes, you have definitely got to check them out. I'll take one out so you can see what these are. Basically, if you get a foreign object or a splinter in your skin, you now have something with you. You pop off this little circular plastic tab here. It exposes a little piece of metal, which allow for you to probe your skin and get any foreign objects out of your skin. You go to a playground with a bunch of kids, splinter probe. You're doing some knucklehead stuff, maybe flag football, splinter probe. So I like having these things around. They come in handy way more often than you could ever imagine. You get a 5-pack for relatively cheap on Amazon. All this stuff will be linked up down below. Anything that I can find, I'll make sure I link it up down below so you guys can check it out. Next to that, we do have some stretching conforming bandage. So, I mean, you know, some gauze. So that way we can use this if we're going to be doing any type of larger wraps of cuts. This is only about 4 yards of gauze, so not tons and tons of it, but you can still cut this up and stretch it and make it double the amount. Hence why I have the scissors in here. It's 4 inches in length, but if I cut this with scissors, that's going to give me 2 inches. So I'm in essence doubling the amount of this, just in case I don't need all of it for one application. Also, having the scissors with the Leatherman Squirt will allow for me to make a clean cut with the gauze and not waste any of it. So behind that is an ouchie boo-boo heaven. We do have some antiseptic towelettes, which means you can clean your own skin or clean someone else's skin before you apply any medical treatment. And then tons and tons of adhesive bandages, or AKA known as band-aids. Different sizes, some of the common sizes. We have some larger sizes in here as well, just in case we're needed. I have tons of kids that always do some silly stuff that makes life complicated. This makes life easier. Comment down below, what am I missing out of this thing? Should I put in tweezers? Should I put in an emergency blanket? All sorts of things you can add to this, but I think that the more simple your kit, the more you think about the items that you actively use, the more likely you are to carry this thing. You cannot beat a DIY kit that comes completely in the palm of your hand. Look at that thing. Completely palmable, and there's no reason not to take this thing with you more often than you can imagine. Am I missing anything out of this kit? Should I pound sand? Do you think it's silly? I would love to hear your comments down below. If you got a little bit more time, check out my trauma kit by Data Crew, which might come in handy as well. And this talks about more trauma type items, a little bit next level than your ouchie boo boo kit, still in the small package. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.